religion ya amai ewo omai mu na no na Professor Lumumba ekatira menum you say if you want to steal it is not about religion nemum it is about politics ill-gotten money control video 2 tibra.
Some of you may be aspiring to positions of leadership in the political arena, but the question is, why do you want to lead? In Africa, the shortest route to ill-gotten wealth is political leadership. If you want to get wealth without working for it at all, join African politics. That is the truth everywhere in Africa except for very few places. The only place that stands out now in that regard is Tanzania with President John Pombe Magufuli. The rest in Africa, I do not know. Excuse me, I'm a visitor. They hunt and gather buildings and cars and money. And that is why African leadership does not attract her best men and women. And African electorate also responds to money. I do not know whether it happens here in Africa, in Ghana. The African electorate also expects to be bribed so that they can vote. And until the day we are able to exercise the ghost of ethnicity, among other things, and the ghost of corruption in Africa, Africa will never get good leaders.
Okay, Professor Lumumba, it is the shortest way for ill-gotten wealth and politics. If you say, Africa, obwa, chrono, wajin tobo, wajin bribe, corruption, aye Africa, say yare. On 7th December 2024, contestants 13, no, and now 12 no, but shemo na to do abama do be develop Ghana. And your religion and your to aba. Tienye na me be tell dem who say and your religion and your Christianity and your Islamic and your traditional religion and a developing mind. It is about the individual. Na misro woni mu na nya misro ni mu. And your somono and your to aba and Ghana you develop bebre 71.3% of Ghanaians out of the 32, 33, 34 million population, ye Christopher, and so chrono ne katashe, aye, say yare, ama Ghana yare, na tie. And no, and now president Vitina Asie, or shed the way before, especially Ghana. The leaders in the book minor, tie some catche. Why your Russia president, your friend Vladimir Putin, but you tie some your catche Ghana for. Now we are back home. Now, or your brony, eti brony, ye yes to Christo. Bibini ya bonsam tie nsema broni ni ka kire before ye leaders na hwe eye no kure ana enye no kure. On the 7th of December we are telling you say look for a candidate who can develop Ghana. It is not about Christianity, it is not about religion, it is not about anything, but those people are on the principles ebeye juma wo jane na so a wo ka no kure wo de nyamiso eye na juma ketasese proye ene kankai nya de obetu so sankofo no only development beba eno na hwe na Vladimir Putin say tie Africa can never be independent. Africa present themselves as weak people with no hope. Hey, me need that so much Ghana bia because omo bangina the name across Ghana no. Do you think you have hope? It's Vladimir catching. When Africans become rich, his bank account is in Switzerland, attends hospital in China, his children stays in Europe. If he dies, he is buried in native country. In Africa, Africa is just a country of Africans. But Ghana, MPs, ministers, MCs, Africa is just a cemetery. Ghana, yet to say control video 3.
Says, quote, Africa will never be independent. Africans believe in Europeans, Americans, Chinese more than themselves. They don't trust themselves at all. A white man will commit crime in Africa, but no action will be taken because Africa authorities view us as semi-gods. Far from the truth, a black man can be abducted in Europe, get harassed, or even killed, but no African authority will question. Africans present themselves as weak people with no hope, especially when dealing with Europeans and Americans. They are their own enemies. They hate each other, and that gives their colonial masters power to continue exploiting African resources. When an African becomes rich, his bank accounts are in Switzerland. He travels to France for medical treatment. He invests in Germany. He buys from Dubai. He consumes Chinese. He prays in Rome and Mecca. His children stay in Europe. He travels to Canada, USA, Europe for tourism. If he dies, he will be buried in his native country of
Ghana MPs ni ministers ni omusika guabuchiri na unti se MP yare a president yare a unim so mkwa abuchiri ade no mun develop mind no mun sisi hospitals papa e wo mind nim na wo yare o makoda hobi enti Africa is like a cemetery enti e no kre na wo ka sa am se wanti ne control pa me video 4 menum ye no yenken kan sembi. Video 4,
Russian President Vladimir Putin is in the African limelight for racially profiling the whole of the African continent by saying that Africa is a cemetery. In his exact words, he was quoted saying, "When an African becomes rich, his bank accounts are in Switzerland, he travels to France for medical treatment, he invests in Germany, he buys from Dubai, he consumes from China, he prays in Rome or Mecca. His children study in Europe. He travels to Canada, USA, Europe for tourism. If he dies, he will be buried in his native country of Africa. Africa is just a cemetery for Africans. How can a cemetery be developed?" Russia has recently been taking more interest in Africa, signing 19 military cooperation deals in the continent with countries like Ethiopia, Nigeria, and Zimbabwe. While in Central African Republic, Russian troops have been training the army, which has been fighting against militia groups who are competing to take control of the country. The Central African Republic has a large deposit of gold, diamonds, and uranium, and Russia's growing role in exploiting them appears to be a quid pro quo for providing military support. Putin's remarks about all Africans all over the continent talking, with some taking it as a positive criticism, while others feel it was a racial attack from the tough Russian president.
Yes, and yet Africa is a cemetery. You will gold, you will diamond, you will bauxite, you will timber, you will cocoa. A day, leaders no jene ha wo mo. Na wo ka we no African leaders no mu buafu. Ghana fo nyina ka ho. Because krono ne keta sesa ye mo se yare. Eti no mu buafu. 7th December. To abama do babu Ghana. Na ubuafu. Ubuafu a me be yi schools bi a wo Ghana e de a kire. Ane yesisi bi. Na mum ye betimi a ya mana kire so say control video 5 where some of the schools I work Ghana Shibibra video 5. diamond, yɛwɔ bauxite, yɛwɔ timber, yɛwɔ ɛyɛ cashew, yɛwɔ ɛyɛ lithium, yɛwɔ oil, ekuro na yɛwɔ saa nneɛma wɔ nyanya de adom yɛ no. Yɛsuku dan na ebi nie eni kwase Ghana eka yɛnya baabi kra ɔhaw ɛwɔ Ghana because ɛjapadeɛ no dɔs dodo ɛna nyame de adom yɛ. Na mom tie nie nkuro no leaders no ɛbɛyɛ dan ɛna Ghana to develop. No ne yɛka ho